I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write our story.
Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Gary here, Wise Leadership Solutions, with another video for the baseline leadership training that I'm working on for the Words from the Wise Leadership channel here on YouTube. Again, this was a course that I was working on, and everyone said, "Oh, Gary, you got to make this course, and people will buy it and pay all this money." And my thoughts are, sounds good. I would prefer to use the course to work on practicing to getting better, talking to the camera, sharing information, hopefully with everybody that's out there listening to the sound of my voice, and maybe even working to build the YouTube following for this channel while we figure out what we're going to do with this channel, right? As most of you know, I'm a retired Navy Master Chief. I was a Command Master Chief in the Navy. I was a damage controlman for 17 of my years in the Navy, which is emergency response, firefighting, all that other good stuff. And then when I retired from the Navy, I became a high school teacher, instructor for Naval Junior ROTC in Ocala, Florida at Vanguard High School. We are the Knights Battalion. And I'm very blessed because right now is that time of the year where we don't have a lot going on because there's no school. I look at this as being the palm period in between deployments, because when school starts, we do workups and then we deploy. And then every day it's like a fast cruise, right? Plus we do a lot of different operations throughout the school year. And a lot of these videos, a lot of this training I do because I think a lot of my students enjoy the content. A lot of people give me feedback. And ultimately, it's just a creative outlet for me to share what I know to believe, what I believe I know to be one of my gifts, which is helping people figure out leadership and figuring out how they're going to work through this thing called life. But today is a very fun one for me because today we're talking about communication. We're talking about how do you effectively narrate to somebody the purpose we discussed in the first training. We talked about purpose. We talked about vision. We talked about how do we take data and how do we crunch it so that we can create a plan to then use to jump forward into the next step, which is communicating, right? We figured out what's going good, what's going bad, what do we want to try different, what do we want to try new. Now what we've got to do is communicate that with all of the people that are involved in our team. Talked about this yesterday, but some of those people are going to be our clients, right? Our teammates or our employees, our followers, however you want to look at that different grouping. That's a very important part of our team. The people that are going to be involved in planning our operations, so our staff members, right? We're going to be looking at who are the people that we're serving, right? And when we come to this leadership challenge of all of these different people, our clients may not be the same people that we're serving or that we're working for, and that matters. Even though I will tell you, I do look at even the people that I'm working for as my client, because I feel like it's my responsibility to make them happy so they continue to want to do business with me, right? So today we're talking about how do you effectively convey the vision? How do you introduce the communication that's effective to the team members? And what I want you to understand about this is you cannot control always how people are going to receive you. You just can't. You cannot all, you might think you're coming across as this inspirational leader that has everybody's best interests at heart. They might think that you're just a loud, braggadocious person that doesn't care about anybody but yourself. And that's frustrating. It hurts when you know you're not trying to do anything more than be the best at your job or at your position or do your best for the team. I've had friends come to me. I've had counterparts. I've had shipmates, peers, proteges, all the above, my students now, because part of the leadership journey for the ROTC program and part of why I love this so much in my retirement, it's not for the money. Right? It's not for the money at all. I could get money a lot of other ways. And with the blessing of being retired, I don't have to do anything for the money. Right? But what I love about this journey is these students, these young children get the opportunity to fill leadership positions, and then they get a lot of the challenges that leaders are going to face, even in the adult community. They're dealing with it as teenagers, but then they get the chance to come talk to somebody like me, or I have two fellow instructors, and they get the or their parents, and they get the chance to get different perspectives and improve on their skills. And I will tell you, by the time they've completed 4 years of my leadership program at the high school for free, oh man, they're lights out. They're gangbusters. They're ahead of a whole bunch of people, not just really in leadership, but let's call it soft skills. Right, soft skills. Okay, but so today we're going to be talking about communication, and leaders do not need to just talk. You've got to be able to connect, you've got to be able to inspire, and you've got to be able to drive them to action. I remember one of my biggest challenges as a leader in the military was trying to figure out how can I get 80 something people on board. My aircraft carrier tour was arguably one of my most challenging leadership tours. My CMC tours were tough because I was primarily leading senior enlisted leaders. And the difference with that was everybody was invested in the organization because they were all committed to being career sailors. When I was on the George Washington leading the damage control division, they were not all invested to being career sailors. They might only be doing 2 or 3 or 4 years. They may not know what their next tour was going to look like. They might want to get out of the military. There was a much different challenge because I had to work with this 80 something group of people, give or take, depending upon what was going on around us. I had to work with this large group of people to accomplish our mission every week, which was not always what they wanted to do, right? People don't mind fighting fires when there's a fire to fight. But the secret to firefighting is to prevent fires from ever happening. And on board ships, one of the best ways we prevent fires from happening is we have installed firefighting systems that we would use to extinguish the fire so that human beings don't have to go down there. Well, part of our job as the firefighters is not only to, do the fun part, fight the fire, but we would also do all the maintenance for these firefighting systems. And it was a lot. And so every week we were not just focusing on training for firefighting, but we were engineers. We were turning wrenches. We were strategically planning how we were going to maintain and manage all of these installed firefighting systems, or like all of our self-contained breathing apparatuses, our SCBAs, or all of our paralocker gears. There was a lot to the program, and we had to do it all. And so every week, every month, every year, the challenge was getting all of these 80 Americans, these 80 human beings, to focus on the same vision, the same mission, and oh, by the way, dealing with all the other curveballs that were going to come to us. And we had to tune in to how we could best communicate. And that was really the command that I honed it in, where I learned how to get my point across to people. If you struggle with communications, you're going to struggle in the leadership space, and it's okay. It's okay to know that you're struggling with communication. A lot of young people that I work with, they struggle with enunciation. They struggle with language comprehension. They struggle with, there's a lot of variations of communicating. One of them can be reading. They struggle with reading. But step one is admitting you have a difficult area. Step two is committing to improving on it, because that the better you can get at that area, not only will that help you to improve in other areas, because a rising tide raises all ships, but it also will show people that you're looking to grow and looking to progress. Super huge. Okay. Also, it's going to be important that we're translating the strategic vision into the reality to our people. My biggest piece of this is always, my favorite part is always communicating how we play a role into the bigger picture. Right. So if I'm on the aircraft carrier, I'm teaching my damage controlman how we contribute to the overall ship's mission. When I'm at the school, I'm teaching my students how our ROTC battalion contributes to the overall school's mission, reputation. Every team has an enduring mission, has an enduring goal, and every person that's on that team plays a role. I look at leaders as being the people that need to communicate with the people on the team as to what their role is and how they're contributing. If you're not contributing, you're probably not going to find connection to the overall mission or to the overall vision or to the overall goal. So leaders need to look to be connecting people. And we do that through our communications and recognizing what's really happening and what we would like to be happening. Or, man, if they're already doing great, part of that communications is reinforcing with them how awesome they're doing. And please don't stop doing that. Huge. Also looking to motivate people to want to not just do things singularly, but also together as a unit. People like to work alone a lot because they don't like responsibility of working with other people. That's true. But guess what? It's not efficient. It's just not efficient. It's not reality. Typically, we need people that can collaborate and that can work in multiple different ways. And part of that is learning how to work with your team members, and communication will be a part of that. And how do you ultimately contribute and achieve the team's goal? The goal is to give you today some practical skills, some of my lessons learned, some of my best practices that will hopefully help you to become a more effective communicator. I'm not perfect. No one expects you to be perfect. All we do expect you to do is freaking try. You've got to get out there and get involved. You got to roll up your sleeves and get off the bench. I've met several leaders throughout my career that were in leadership positions that did not want to be the ones out there in front of the team communicating because they were afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or getting put in a position where somebody was going to ask a hostile question or they were going to be in an uncomfortable space. You can't hide from that, in my opinion, if you're going to be a really effective leader. You just can't. Those people were just filling the position, in my opinion. And what would happen typically was either I would help them get off the bench and get out there, or I would do it and then I would show them how it's done and try to coach them up, or they might lose that position eventually because somebody else was going to take it. You don't always get to choose who's the leader of an organization. You don't. I would teach this to sailors. I teach this to my cadets today. If I'm a teacher and I'm in front of the classroom, I want to be the leader. I've got the positional authority. But if I've got a student who's got a lot of charisma, who's got a lot of energy, who's very good with their words, who has a different vision than I do, I might now have a competitor. And I've got to now not just neutralize the potential vision that person is casting to the group, but also segment that challenge away from everyone else so they can remain focused on what I need them to do because ultimately I am the one responsible. What I love about those people though is that's talent. That means they've got it. You've just got to figure out if I can get that person on board with what I'm trying to do, they're going to help lead everybody else. It's just going to make my job that much harder. And that is a pro tip, folks. Find those people, leverage them. Life's going to go a lot better for you. Today, the next thing we're going to talk about is active listening. Active listening. It's not easy. It's not easy. Step one, active listening. Shut up. That's step one. Right? That's step one. Step one is me, the person that's trying to be the communicator. You have got to be quiet so that they can talk. That's number one, right? It's super important. A lot of leaders will want to fill empty space with noise, with sound, and understand that if you're actively trying to listen, I want you to be quiet and to try listen for the words, but also be paying attention as to what's going on. I want you to pay attention to their body language. I want you to pay attention to their eyes. I want you to pay attention to possibly, how their shoulders are moving up or down. I would like to believe that most of you as leaders know your people. And so you're going to be able to tell when they're operating in a different space, when one of my students walks in the room, I mean, sometimes they walk in just crying, and that's okay. That's a problem. Sometimes they walk in angry. Sometimes they walk in upset. Whatever the thing is, and typically they're going to give a lot of nonverbal cues. And this is not just to my students. This is it's been my experience. This happens everywhere, right? And when somebody walks up to me and they're giving me nonverbal cues before we even speak, I'm already preparing to be an active listener, because as they're coming into my space to share some sort of a message with me, I can already tell there's something going on, right? If they're giving me, especially if they're giving me cues that are going to be possibly concerning. Now, if they're coming in smiling, upbeat, super excited, super happy, then it may not be as important of a conversation. But unfortunately, as the leader, typically people can find you when something's going wrong. That's just my experience. You don't always get the fun stuff, right? People don't usually, yay, we're everything is fun. No, typically they're calling you up because there's something going wrong or they need some help. And so you have got to pay attention to understand you can look for different perspectives, and you put your critical thinking hat on so you could ask thought-provoking questions to really figure out what they're trying to hopefully get across to you. I like when you use close-ended questions that confirm something, right? So, for example, if a student's coming to tell me that they can't go to an event that they had committed to, and they're kind of beating around the bush a little bit, I will say, "Are you just trying to tell me that you're not going to be able to go to the event on Saturday?" And if they say yes, and okay, thank you for that information. And then you figure out where do you go from there, right? And so use that close-ended question to kind of get confirmation as to what they're trying to communicate with you. Use open-ended questions to try to get them to keep talking and sharing as they try to work it out and how they best want to share it with you. And I'm clarifying through this process what they're trying to get across. My favorite emotion, I guess you could call it, when you're communicating with people or as a leader in general, is empathy. I love empathy because my wiring in my head doesn't always get me to operate from the most sympathetic posture. I'm just I don't know if it's my journey in life. I don't know if it's my own neuro challenges. I don't know if it's my own perspective and my own philosophy. I don't know what it is per se, but I will tell you that I'm not the most sympathetic person. It's not that I don't care. I just don't come across. I don't always feel sympathetic. But when I learned as a Navy recruiter, once upon a time, I was a Navy recruiter when I was a young guy. I'll share that story with you guys someday. But once upon a time, I was a United States Navy recruiter, and it was my job to change people's lives every month and to convince them to possibly give the United States Navy a try. Right. And it was during that tour that I learned empathy, which means I don't have to feel the emotion you're feeling. I can just remember a time when I have felt that feeling so I can relate. And then what I can do is connect. Oh, I felt that way before. I don't feel that way now, but I felt like how you feel before. And man, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's it. And then you can acknowledge that they're going through whatever they're going through, and then you can better connect with them. It's huge, right? Well, because when people that are always operating from a place of sympathy, they choose to want to almost go through the emotional voyage with the person. And as leaders, oh man, that can just start to fog things up, right? And now I'm not saying don't be emotional. I'm just saying try to be more empathetic than sympathetic. My advice. Also understand that the goal here is we want to build trust. Okay. And we want to continue this open communication thing. I want you to come tell me when you've got a problem. I need you to come tell me when something's wrong. I want you to listen to me when I'm talking. And so I've got to show you that same respect by doing that exact same thing for you. And for my young men, it's really the young men that in my experience, that have this biggest challenge is you have to actually listen and then ask questions that show you're paying attention. Oh, it's huge. Typically, the young men struggle with this. And then when they would come to the fleet, it would continue to be a challenge. And then it was eventually probably their once they got technically proficient, they would become better communicators. I'm not really sure what the linkage is there. I could probably dive some more into it and figure it out, but it just is not typically a natural thing for, unfortunately, for young men. All right. So again, you purposefully have got to actively listen, folks. You have got to silence things. You've got to maintain eye contact. Why do you think eye contact is such a hard thing for people? My personal opinion, and there could be science out there, but my opinion is I believe that eyes are a window to the soul. And so people are almost uncomfortable letting somebody in that far into their space, even if it's across feet, right? It could be not very close, but when you're locking eyes, some people can be uncomfortable. Some people can feel threatened. They can feel challenged. They could feel like you're trying to possibly neutralize who I am, or you're trying to diminish me or get me to cow down or whatever it is. And so don't make it weird, but try to maintain eye contact, especially if somebody is sharing something emotional for them and they're looking at your face. If they're looking at your face, look back at theirs, typically in their eyes. No, I'm not saying look lovingly and just, oh my gosh, like, no, don't make it weird, but look at their eyes and let them know you're paying attention and try to receive what they're sending. Uh, Try to avoid interrupting them. Okay. Try to avoid interrupting them. Let them go. Let them be messy. Let them be sad. Let them be upset. Let them be angry. Let them be whatever. Just try your best to avoid interrupting as they get this first part out as they're trying to communicate with you. Try to ask questions that will help them to summarize what they're saying and try to get clarification. Remember that using open ended question and closed ended questions. This is going to be a foundational principle for your entire leadership journey. It's going to be a pinnacle of strong communication, and it's going to help you build better relationships with your people, because the more they understand that you're actually going to listen to them when they come to you, the more they're going to come to you. That's just a reality, right? The more they're going to come to you, the more they're going to seek you out, the more they're going to appreciate your help. Try to also keep your communications, to the best of your ability, clear and concise. Uh, Sometimes when people start to drone on, or they start to continue to speak because they don't feel that the message is getting across, more words doesn't always help. So if I recognize, for example, if I'm doing a training, if I'm doing something with people on my team, if I feel like I'm not sure if the message is getting received, I'm going to ask them questions to validate that they're receiving the information. If they answer the questions appropriately and we get the right feedback, we're good. I might be able to wrap it up. If not, I might need to do something different because evidently what I'm doing is not working. Okay. And you've got to be flexible, folks. Leadership is not just one size fits all. You have got the enemy gets a vote. You have got to be able to communicate and to maneuver with whoever you're working with at the time. And you've also got to communicate in such a way as that it's a fair opportunity for everybody that's listening to you to understand. And that's a tough thing because you don't always know the level of experience of everybody in the room or everybody on your team. And so you got to communicate in such a way as that it's fair for everyone to understand, to at least to the point where they can raise their hand and ask a good thought-provoking question as to better get their clarification. That's huge. If you're ever a leader and you ask if there are any questions and there's just no questions, that's not always a good sign. That just means they don't want to hear you talk anymore. And I get that. I do. Maybe you made it too long of a conversation. But typically when the people are involved and invested, there's gonna be a question or two. Um, and the more you encourage questions and back and forths, the better things are gonna go for the team. Work to use clear language, work to not use jargon, right? Or pro language that maybe only people will know that have done certain things in your community, and try to structure your message logically, right? You want to open it up as to what you're talking about. You want to make sure there's a subject that you want to hit the notes of. Then you want to wrap it up and check for acceptance. You want to check to hear that they got the information, right? This is going to help you prevent confusion and hopefully for you to ensure the vision is being effectively conveyed. The vision being whatever it is you're trying to get across to them at that point in time. God, it sounds so simple, but it's not. Again, a couple things: simple language. Don't overuse big words just to show off. That doesn't really work. Organize your thoughts ahead of time. One of my favorite things to do before I go speak in public, whether I'm addressing a large group of people, whether I'm giving a speech to, like a seated group, because there's different kinds of speaking, right? What I teach in class for 45 minutes is not the same as what I may say to a bunch of people out there in the field that's stopping what they're doing to hear a hype speech as we get back going again. Or it may not be the same as when I'm going to hold a junior enlisted call or whatever it is. And so what I would do is I would essentially put all my thoughts or on my phone or on a 3x5 card, and I just would have to write down my high points of what I wanted to hit, and then I would be able to then just stay on track with that. Right? I believe in meaning what you say, so you say what you mean. I am an authentic leader. I'm an authentic person. I'm blessed to have this ability to just always be the same. I don't know where it comes from, really. I think it's when I made the conscious decision to enter into the Command Master Chief program. I knew I no longer would have the luxury of disconnecting my personal life from my professional life. And I just decided that the only way to be successful in that role would just be to 100% to be this holistically one person. And what I discovered was I'd already been doing that. I just had never said it really out loud. But now, as a teacher, now as a leader, now just anywhere in life, as a husband, as a father, uh, I've learned you can't just try to be different things for different people. It just doesn't work. So, the best way to get through all of that is to be authentic, be yourself, and you don't have to worry about what do I got to say, how do I got to act for this person. Just and the other thing is get to the point. Say what you got to say. Okay, say what you got to say. Again, keep it clear, keep it concise. Effective communication is going to matter, and then you want to prevent misunderstandings. And oh, by the way, if somebody freaking misunderstands or somebody doesn't know that they understand, they typically have an obligation to say something. That's their responsibility, especially if we're for professionals or if we're adults. Even with my students, ultimately, if I put out an assignment, they have got an obligation to make sure they understand the assignment. And if they just allow it to go on for weeks or whatever it is without understanding fully and without asking any questions, I'm not really going to have a lot of pity for them when it's time to give them a grade. Right? Storytelling is a powerful tool. Allow yourself to tell stories. Uh, I do know that my students enjoy the stories. I also know that they can be tangents, but I do believe that a good story will help to get the point across. So, look, Jesus used stories to best tell his parables, his principles, his gospel, all of the things that he needed us to do to all of the world. And we still use those stories till this day. Stories, they do so much. It allows us to connect with the audience on an emotional level, with our people. It allows us to help them recognize that the vision is relatable and that it's something that they can go through. It allows them to see that maybe if it happened to you, that you're not afraid to open up and share your own personal story and how that whatever that experience was made a positive impact on you. And the examples that you're going to use are going to best illustrate why your vision, not only for what you're doing, matters, but it's going to make it much more memorable because they're going to have all these connections. They're going to make all these connections to whatever it is you're communicating to them with. So don't fight the story. Now, what I don't typically do is I don't plan out ahead of time. Oh my God, I'm going to tell all these stories. I guess you could. I typically have um, things I want to talk about, but then what I will do is I will typically, as I'm talking, a story will pop up in my head, and I will leverage that story. Uh, but again, the power of storytelling is going to help you make your vision resonate with the people. Okay. Now, different styles to communicate with. You got to know how to effectively shift styles depending upon the receiver. Okay. You're typically there's a sender, there's a receiver, there's going to be noise, right? And then there's going to be sending back and forth. And so you've got to consider a few things. You've got to consider your audience's knowledge or your receiver's interest, their preferences in communication. What are they how do they best receive and or send? What's going to matter is going to be your tone, the level of detail you're going to use, right? Communication channels you're going to use, whether it's going to be cell phones, text message, emails, verbal, hands, all kinds of different things. And you want to think about all of those as you're working with your people. And I told you last class or last topic about data and making ops plans. Communications is typically one of the first topics we're going to discuss because comms are that important. And a part of that communications, we're going to have laid out how we're going to send, how we're going to receive. And again, what is the knowledge base of the people listening or you're communicating with? What are the specifics? What is the best way you're going to communicate? Is it going to be through a meeting? Is it going to be through a conversation? Is it going to be through a Zoom meeting or a call? Is there going to be an email sent out? What is it going to be? And being able to adapt your communication style is going to be key to making sure that everybody receives the message effectively. Looking for feedback. I told you earlier, you want questions, you want feedback. And I'll take any feedback, to be honest, because even negative feedback is still feedback, but I love constructive feedback. I love when people are feeding me information that not just what if I'm not doing something good or good enough, and they give me feedback that helps me to recognize that I can improve in some areas. That's a growth opportunity for me. And oh, by the way, if they were having the courage to share with me this feedback, and it's typically not always comfortable to share with the leader some areas they could possibly improve, that just shows super loyalty. I appreciate that. And I think you need to recognize that as a huge potential opportunity for you to see in your people somebody that's going to be a future leader. Okay. And then you give people constructive feedback as well. And you want to help these people improve and help them to continue to contribute to the vision. And so they get the opportunity to hear what they can do better. You want to focus on their behaviors, the impacts, the things that really mattered. Dude, be timely, be timely, be timely. Giving somebody feedback for something they did 5 months ago, that's just petty. That's something else, right? And then again, give them suggestions for how they can do it better. We, we should care about our people's growth, my opinion, and where they're going to go in the future, even if they're going to leave your organization. Okay. When you grow good leaders, when you grow strong leaders, don't be afraid that they're just going to grow and then leave and not do business with you anymore or not want to be on your team. Nothing is stronger than a leader who has a team full of leaders that all choose to follow that person. Right. Again, focusing on behavior matters. The energy they're bringing to the team, the attitude, the optimism. Typically, these are the things that you're looking to give them feedback on. Like specificity, give them some solutions, ways they can fix it, and just understand that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Hopefully, they're going to give you feedback as well. And this is typically it's conversation. I used to tell my sailors, especially when I was a D seaman, if you're not at attention, this is a conversation. If you're at the, and if I put you to the position of attention, it's no longer a conversation. It's a whole different, it's a whole different thing, right? But if you're not at attention, we're having a conversation, and you've got to be able to be mature enough to have that open and honest communication. And you know, How do you have open and honest communication? You lead with authentically delivering open and honest communication. When they see you giving open and honest comms, they're going to give it back to you. Uh, I'm I'm not a fan of the whole safe space thing. I get it. It'd be nice if there would just be a cuddly room where everyone could go and say how they feel. And there was one group. Um, we did the basic leadership training camp this summer, and a bunch of the kids were having a leadership problem, and they had to go hug it out. They all went and hugged and like apologized and told everybody how they felt. That's great. If that works for you, that's awesome. My personal opinion is they didn't need to go through all of those dramatics, though. They just needed to have some honest communication and then move on and trust that everybody really just wants to do good for the team. Okay. And understand that yes, we want to build trust and we want to all collaborate. If that's just how it is. Here's why I guess I don't get too wrapped around the whole axle on this whole safe space thing is because I've been theoretically in spaces that were supposed to be safe, and then people uh, walk out of the room and it's no longer safe. So, my personal opinion, just own your words, own your comms, and be ready to stand on your business whenever the time comes, and you'll be okay. Right? You can't control if somebody else is going to be dishonest or not be open. You can only control what you're going to do. That's it. Look for feedback. Always offer feedback. One of my favorite things to do is I like to ask permission to provide feedback. Hey, would you mind if I tell you if I give you a few of my ideas based off what you just told me? Okay, that matters, and that way you've also just prepared that person to hear whatever it is you're about to say. Good. I think that matters. Sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say, and that's okay too, unless they're going to do it wrong, and then that's not okay, and then that's a different conversation because the whole idea is they typically got to do it right. Right. In today's world, we do got a variety of communication methods. I will tell you, be cautious with with like messenger or chat. Be cautious with email. People don't always internalize or process things the same way. Learn how to effectively utilize communications methods and have a strategy behind it. Make sure you're using the right channels and ensure consistency in your messaging across all the channels. Especially be cautious with allowing there to be pop up flares because there can become perceptions of people feeling not welcome or being ostracized or not being involved. So there's a bunch of different messenger groups or chat groups or Discord groups or whatever it is. They'll, don't put somebody on an email and watch. Unfortunately, how somebody can get offended, and it can be truly a miscommunication. And those are the things that you got to listen for and be aware of as a leader, and work to flesh that stuff out and work to neutralize that bad energy because it's just going to weigh down the team. Um, Ensuring your messages are getting across the finish line are going to help you keep everybody on the same page and hopefully everyone aligned. And there's two kinds of alignment I want you to think about. And there's more than this, but here's two. There's the up and down alignment, and this is typically going to be from the leadership team all the way down to the most junior person in your organization. Okay, that matters, and that's essentially sending information up and down. Then there's also going to be this alignment that's going to go side to side, port to starboard, and you want to that's across your team, and that's typically going to be based off of their position, their authority, what they deserve to know, what they need to know, how do they need to know it. But if they've been read into the information, if they've been told they're a part of this thing, then they should be getting all of the pertinent, relevant information. And they're going to feel some type of way if they miss some. Now, if they didn't read their email, it's not your fault. And then here comes your transparency and your authenticity because you're going to tell them, that's not my fault. You didn't read your freaking email, dude. It was in your inbox. Read your email. Check it, especially before the meeting, because you don't want to come in here and start opening your mouth saying you didn't get some information when we all know you got it. That's just how it is, unless there's some other factors that we're not aware of. Okay. Again, I will tell y'all, The secret to my success as a communicator is to be honest, authentic, open, share the information freely when I have time to do it, being true to myself, and really being a person who values their time, and wanting them all to have the best information possible so they have all the tools that they need so they can go out and get the job done and we can all move forward. Be honest about challenges, be authentic about successes, and let values guide communication. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Our values: honor, courage, commitment, authenticity, respect, right? These are our values. And the minute you go outside of those lines, you give them all rights to go outside of those lines as well. And it will just possibly derail the whole thing. And I will just shut the whole thing down because I don't have time for that. Okay. And as leaders, we've got to be essentially the managers and the monitors of the whole conversation thing. Using nonverbal communication is going to also matter. Again, shoulders, hands, eyes. It's not just about your words. There's going to be a lot of different things you can use to best communicate across your point. Tone of voice, facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, being mindful, being exaggerated. All these things are going to help or hinder getting the point across. Yeah, good. I think nonverbal is going to play a role also in how your message is perceived. So again, you might feel like you're this inspiring person, and all people might think is, "Oh my God, they're always yelling at us." Right? There you go. On the reverse, it could also be like, "Stop being so freaking emotional all the time. Welcome to the world. It's not about yelling. It's about authentically communicating, and we speak loud enough for everybody in the room to hear us. Don't take it personal." Like, sometimes you might have to have that level of just a direct talk. Looking to get that feedback, though, from people. Hopefully they can give you some insight as to what their concerns are, what their fears are, and what it is they're looking for from leadership. None of us are perfect. I'm going to get better every day. I'm going to do something wrong tomorrow. I'll get better. You're going to be the same way. It's okay. That's the journey. That's the fun part. There's no such thing as a perfect communicator. Enjoy the ride. Don't sweat the small stuff. Be proud of being a player and being a part of the team. Allow your team to give you the suggestions and let them help you. And then give other people in your team the chance to also be communicators so they can practice. Okay, that's how they get to be where you are, and that's how you grow future leaders. If you could master just the skills I spoke about in today's lesson, you're going to be in a very good starting place. I promise you that. When I first went to recruiting school, I struggled getting in front of a group of people and talking. I would get very nervous. I would get very anxious, and I would start to talk very, very fast. And the recruiting instructor said, "Hey, Wise, when you get to the front of the room, take a deep breath with that and then speak." And what I learned is by taking that deep breath, it would almost self-calibrate, self-soothe, whatever. And then it would allow me to almost project at a much more measured pace. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap up today. If you find value in anything that I said today, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Please check out the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to worry about monetizing that particular part of my portfolio, but maybe, who knows? But honestly, just as people look at your channel, it's nice to show people growth, and it's a metric that I'm tracking. Please share it with a friend. If you're able to take some of this information and use it in your own journey, I would love to hear about that. So please send me that information back. Message. I look at all the comments and look at all the messages, so please share it there. Thank y'all very much for your time. I'm going to wrap it up now, and I hope to see y'all soon. Bye.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know